The first Black person to step foot on soil now known as Canada is thought to be Mathieu de Costa, a free man believed to be employed as an interpreter for Samuel de Champlain. King Louis XIV formally authorizes slavery in New France, allowing for the regular practice of forced labor in the colony. Marie-Joseph Angélique, a slave, is accused of setting fire to her owner's Montreal home. Although it's unclear to this day whether Angélique did indeed set the fire, she was tortured and hanged for the crime. The British promised freedom, land, and rights to slaves and free Black people in exchange for service during the American Revolution. Black loyalists who migrate establish Birchtown, their own community near Shelburne, Nova Scotia. Hundreds of disbanded white soldiers find themselves competing for jobs with their lower-paid Black neighbors, sparking Canada's first race riot. The Imperial Statute of 1790 expands slavery to British North America. In the face of widespread discrimination, almost 1,200 Black loyalists leave Nova Scotia for Sierra Leone, Africa. John Graves Simcoe, Lieutenant Governor to Upper Canada, introduces a bill to end slavery in the colony. The bill, which receives royal assent on July 9th, does not ban slavery completely, but marks its gradual prohibition. A group of almost 600 exiled Jamaicans, known as Maroons, land in Halifax. Many would go on to help in the refortification of Citadel Hill. After several years of discrimination and poor conditions, several hundred Maroons leave Nova Scotia for Freetown, Sierra Leone. Thousands of Black volunteers fight for the British during the War of 1812. Between 1815 and 1860, tens of thousands of African Americans escaping slavery seek refuge in Canada via the Underground Railroad. Slavery is abolished throughout the British colonies by an Imperial Act. Mary Ann Shadd founds the Provincial Freemen, linking the anti-slavery and women's rights campaigns, and later establishes a school for Black refugees in Windsor. More than 800 Black Californians moved to British Columbia. Their presence helps defend this British territory, which leads to the formation of Canada's first and only all-Black militia unit. After facing rejection in their new home of Montreal, a group of American women formed the Colored Women's Club. The group dedicates itself to supporting the Black community in Little Burgundy. By 1909, hundreds of Black Oklahomans moved to the Canadian prairies. In 1911, a few newspapers in Winnipeg predict that the Dominion government would move to exclude, quote, Negro immigrants. Military officials authorized the creation of the No. 2 Construction Battalion. This group of exclusively Black soldiers is not permitted to fight, serving in France instead as loggers with the Canadian Forestry Corps. Hundreds of Black Canadians settle in the community of Strathcona on the east side of the city of Vancouver. Barbara Howard leads the Canadian relay team to silver and bronze medals in the 1938 British Empire Games in Australia. The Canadian military initially rejects hundreds of Black volunteers. However, as the war rages on, the military eventually accepts many Black Canadians into its regular Army Corps. The Saskatchewan Bill of Rights Act passes under Tommy Douglas and marks Canada's first general law prohibiting discrimination. Jackie Robinson breaks the color bar as he plays for the Montreal Royals. Viola Desmond is arrested for sitting on the ground floor of the Roseland Theatre, considered to be for whites only. Desmond's case inspired a wave of anti-segregation activism, culminating in the legal end to segregation in Nova Scotia in 1954. Scouted from the Quebec Aces, Willie O'Ree is the first Black player in the NHL, playing his first game as a Boston Bruin against the Montreal Canadiens. Anti-Black racism combined with a drive for urban renewal lead the city of Halifax to threaten eviction of the neighborhood's property-owning Black residents if they did not voluntarily sell their properties and relocate. The government announces Canada's first multiculturalism policy intended to develop a more inclusive society, embracing the immigrants shaping its diversity. In the ensuing 4 decades, Canadians bear witness to countless contributions made by Black politicians, athletes, artists, and more.